What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have a familiar face in the chat. We got Brett. I think you might be top three in order of views. So maybe we shoot for the crown this episode. So
I'm
you
with
have an
it.
interesting story. You run a great business. I don't want to spend a lot of time on how'd you get started? How did you? We already did that last episode. You have a tremendous story. But currently, what are you doing with eBay? How are you utilizing it? What kind of business do you run? Just quick 1 minute synopsis, and then we can get into it.
Well, I mean, for the short version of it is, I got into reselling in order to kind of make my life easier time wise. I've been training with you now for at least 3 years
Hmm.
and learning the ropes, building my own Rolodex, building my business into what is now a over 150K a year business and growing. Um, and yeah, living the dream as far as I'm concerned. It's funny because like I think about it a lot, and we kind of got into this business for kind of different reasons, I would say. And I think but we kind of built it into kind of the same, it ended up becoming the same thing. So, like, for instance, like you started your business for the purpose of generating a living. I started my business for the purpose of generating a living. But on the side of that, I also started my business for the purpose of generating time, free time. So I can say now that I'm running a very successful eBay operation that I can literally work 4 hours a day and be done with it. And I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want. Not only that, but I can schedule that 4 hours at any point I want in the day. If I want to do that from 12 to 4 in the morning, I can
Hmm.
do that. If I want to do that from 5 to 9 in the morning, I can do that. If I want to do that from 6 to 10 at night, I can do that. And what that has allowed me, and it's funny because I look back at my life and we talked about it a little bit in the last podcast. I've been a musician my whole life. When I was younger, I came up in that scene. My goal was to be a musician, and I worked a bunch of crap jobs to make ends meet while I was trying to strive for that goal. Whether that's bussing tables, whether you just do anything, it doesn't even matter. It's just something to pay the rent and put food on the table while we're going for our goals. And man, I wish I would have had this then. That's all
Sure.
I can say, man. It's
So why? And like you said, you've been doing music. We teased it in the last episode. You have like songs on the YouTube machine with like 4 or 5 million views. So you did find a good amount of success with it. You've been doing music your whole life. Why do you wish you would have had eBay back then?
I mean, it would have just made my life so much easier in the sense that, like, when you're first starting out as a musician, and I'm talking about in like the late 90s, early 2000s, it's even harder now. But at that time, for me, it was like, number one, it's easier and harder in different ways. But for the first thing, it's like you have to have the hunger in a way where, because you're going to have to work a full time job and then work on your music on the side. You know what I mean? So it's like you might be whatever you're doing, but I think the mindset at that point is I don't care what I'm doing as long as I'm doing this on the side and working towards my goal. And I think,
Mhm.
a lot of artists find themselves in this position, whether it's a musician, whether it's a painter, whether it's a writer. You know what I mean? This is like you think about actors in Hollywood. What are they doing? They're all servers at restaurants while they're trying to build their Hollywood career. They're
Right.
doing whatever it takes. But those jobs take at least 8 hours a day out of your day every day.
Sure.
And you're not making that much money. So you might be doing that, pulling 24K a year, before taxes, and you still don't have that much time available to work on your craft. So for me, I look back on it like, man, like for me to make 24K, like that's 2 hours a day. I mean, not even, you know what I mean? Like you could do that listing 5 a day once you know what you're doing, but whatever. I'm not trying to make this into something like that's easy. But what I'm saying is like to be in that position and have reselling as your like to be the breadwinner, you know, like you can literally turn the tables on that situation where the 8 hours can go towards your craft and
Hmm.
the other few hours can go towards generating all the money you need to live. And that's what
Absolutely.
I was lacking. So it's like you end up a lot of times in this stressful position where there's not enough time, especially when things start moving and you start relying more on the art and you really want to get away from what might have become a part-time job. So you're doing a balancing act at this point.
And not only that, not only like the money portion dollar for dollar, also, let's say you're waiting tables, bussing tables, let's say you're working a job that you don't want to be at, kind of as like a gap between what you're doing today, what you have to do today, and what you eventually want to do, the dream. If you have a gig or if you have a show or if you have somewhere to be, somewhere to talk to, take a meeting, and I gotta work today, that might mess everything up where you're saying,
Totally.
you can dictate your own schedule and hey, I can get my listings up later, go to this audition, meet this person, shake this hand, get this opportunity, and then, hopefully get to where we want to go a little bit quicker.
And that's it. It's crazy. Like it's funny you brought that up because I can remember times when I would have been willing to quit my job if
Huh.
I couldn't get the day off to, fly to North Carolina for a gig.
And
You
then what
know
do
what
you do
I
after
mean?
that? What do you do after that? You quit your job, you fly, you take the gig, and you come home, and now what?
You get another crappy job. Like
And
it's
just
not
rinse and
hard to get a
repeat.
crappy job bussing tables. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? But the
sure.
gig can open you up to way more gigs
That's
and
right.
whatever else. So it's like, that's the dream. That prioritizes over everything. That's why you work the crappy jobs. It's because
Right.
you don't mind calling them and being like, yo, I'm sorry, but I ain't coming in today. Like I can't. But I was never like that. I would get my
No,
head.
but that's
I would say,
that's what
listen,
it takes for a lot of people because the priority is what our ultimate goal is. Our priority is not bussing this table. And if we have to take a meeting and we have to do a show or we have to do an audition, that's what you're going to do every single
yeah.
time.
And the good news is most jobs are cool with that. They understand it. They get it. They know that this is like bussing tables is not a career path. They get it. So it is what it is. And if you do your job good, they're going to be cool with you. But um, but yeah, I look at that and it's like, you know, it's an interesting path because you really have to put in so much effort in order to make the grade, in order to make it in one of these industries.
Right.
Like a lot of times the person that has the free time for some reason, whatever that is the one who's going to make it. The person who has the right connections is the one who's going to make it. The person who's able to dedicate themselves the most to it is the one who's going to make it. So, and I'm not, I got no problems with people who maybe come from money and, you look at certain people who didn't have to worry about that money side of things, you know? And I'm not trying to call anybody out, Steve Aoki, but anyways, you know, it's like some people can just focus on this thing. They're born into connections and they build a career off of that. While the rest of us got to pay the rent. And, we can survive on rice and ramen and that's fine, but we're willing to do that. But it's like there's also this other opportunity where if we can just we could build a small reselling business and be in a way better position because you can scale to whatever size you want, to whatever
That's
you
right.
need.
Right.
And as the quote unquote starving artist, you know what I mean? Like all you want is what you need during that time in your life. You don't want more. A lot of people don't understand that. Like, it's like I can remember telling people all the time, like, I would be happy if I could just write music, play gigs, and break even every month. You know what I mean? Living in an apartment, that's not that nice, you know, in not the greatest area. Like I didn't care about that. It is what it is. You know what I mean? As long as I'm doing what I love, that's what was most important to me. So for my situation, it went from having to, and I feel like I was lucky, but having to cover all my expenses with crappy jobs and work on music on the side, which was usually late at night or whatever, um, to having some success and being able to cut that to part-time jobs and rely half and half, and eventually like almost getting to the point. But that's the other side of this, is that when we think of successful musicians, we think of Playboy Cardi or, like Taylor Swift. Like that is the 0.0000001%. The
Sure.
majority of musicians, even the ones making a living off of this, are not making that much money. And in most underground scenes, it's almost impossible to make a full living, even if you're at the top of that scene. So, but people are still happy doing it, you know, and that's the whole goal. So I look back and I'm like, man, I just would have had more time, which would have allowed for less stress once I got to the point where I was really pushing to make music my full-time gig. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have had that stress. And I understand that now because I still write music and I make probably, 5, 6 times as much money as I was then. And I have easily twice as much free time.
So let's say, you're starting today, you're still trying to get your break, still trying to break into the industry. What do you envision or imagine the balance between trying to get the break, write the music, take the gigs, and then also selling on eBay or running a reselling business?
5 a day, man.
You would go 5 a day?
That I'm saying you could do that on
Oh,
5 a
you could
day
do 5 a day?
once you have the knowledge, for sure, easily. And because you don't need that much money to get by. It depends on your standard of living, of course.
Of
Like
course.
I didn't care at that point in time, you know what I mean? Like to me, I don't, I'm
But
comfortable wherever I roam. So it's kind of, you know what I mean? I understand, like, and it's different now because rents are much higher, this, that, and the other. Some people need to be in certain areas, whatever. But um, I would say between 5 and 10 a day, you'll never
yeah,
have to, you won't
because
have to make money from music.
because when we were talking to Andrea yesterday on the call, her average profit is $20.49 per item. And if she only did 10 a day and sold 10 a day, that's $74,788 profit a year, 10 a day.
That's
And 10 a
insane.
day, I mean,
You
you
can make a
know,
third of that and get, I mean, I don't know if you still can. I mean, back in the day you could, but you know,
but even 5 a day is $37,000 profit, and that can supplement whatever kind of money you're making from the music as well. And at 5 a day, you hit what, two thrift stores, get the best five that
one,
you can get, and
what
then throw them
you
up
can hit,
online.
you can hit one thrift store twice a week and come up with your 35 items. Like once you're schooled on this. And I mean, and the work itself will take you an hour. I mean,
Yeah,
that's photos, listing, and shipping, maybe
sure.
an hour and a half,
Sure.
max. Like it's a joke that we
It,
can do.
it's a hack, man. What it is it's a glitch in the matrix that we can go to the thrift store, we can find these items, and then we can make a living, any kind of living. And that's the beautiful part about it. So like in the group, like I've never told anyone you got to list 120. I've never said that. I've never told anyone you got to list 100 items a day. I've never said that. What I do tell people is that you can build a business around the life you want to live. And that is the conversation that we're having right now. If you want to live
Yes.
the life that involves 100 items listed per day, you could build that business. And that's what eBay and reselling is fantastic for. You can also build the business around 5 a day or 10 a day around the life that you want to live. And for you, you value the schedule, you value the freedom, and you have set up your business and you run it accordingly. But it's just not eBay. Like every single business, there are people that, put in 80 hours. In the same industry, the same business, people put in 10 hours on the side, or maybe just 40 hours clocking in, clock out. And that's fine too. So, like, eBay is no different. Reselling is no different. There's no requirement. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. If you want to supplement your income, you can. If you want to, retire your spouse, you can. If you're on Social Security and it's not cutting for you and you want to list 5 a day, you could do that. If you've been laid off and you need a gap, you could do that. If you want to go for everything and go for the moon, you can also do that. And that is the beauty of it, is that even though we are on eBay, we're still the master of our own domain on how much we want to do, or how big we want to go. And it works for every single person. And I think that that's, the conversation that we're having now. And it especially works for subsets of people that you're describing, people that, have other things, want to do other things. Even eBay doesn't have to be what they love or what they want to do, but it could be used as a vehicle to get them to the ultimate goal at the finish line. So, there's a million ways to do this. All we have to do is just choose one. That's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like for me, like you know, I've been in the group for a long time now. I'm very active in the group, you know what I mean? Like, and in a way, I feel like an outlier in there, which is kind of what makes me want to be like calling all starving artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Calling everybody who was me when I was in my early 20s. You know what I mean? Like, this is it. This is what you're looking for right here. Like, because I don't think a lot of people in that position take advantage of this, take advantage of the free money that's out there, just sitting there waiting to be turned into cash. You know
So
what I
why
mean?
don't
So
they
it's
take
like,
advantage of it?
because they don't know it
They
exists.
don't know they exist, right? That's
That's
the
it.
crazy part.
I think that the
How do
people that
people
find it,
not know this exists?
the people that find it are, I don't know, I would say there's a few different demographics. You know, there's the people who love thrifting and just are like, maybe I could turn this into a business. You know, there's the people who are looking to build a significant business and they say, like, they watch one of your videos and they're like, okay, this dude made millions of dollars doing this. Why don't I give that a shot? You know, there's that person. There's the person who has a family, you know, there's single parent households. There's a lot of places where this fits in very well to the lifestyle because it gives you the freedom. For instance, it has somebody who was a single parent,
Mhm.
like, you know, your kid is now in college, but for a while you were a single parent, and you know, how much freedom did that give you to be with your
Everything,
child that
everything,
you, huh?
everything, dude. I'll tell you. Early on, um, single parent, we used to share him every now and then. His mom used to live an hour away from me. I used to have to drive him to school 1 hour, come back home 1 hour, drive him to school 1 hour to pick him up, come back 1 hour, drive him back up 1 hour for baseball practice, and then drive back home 1 hour. I used to do 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, which is 30 hours a week. So 30 hours a week means everyone else in the world was living a 7 day a week life. I was living a 6 day a week life. And I had to get everything done that everybody else has to get in 7 days. I had to get it done in 6 days. And I did that for years, Brett. I did that for years. I was getting an oil change every 3 weeks.
And it's just that it's the beauty of being able to do those things when it's being able to prioritize while
Mm-hmm.
still
Yep.
getting the work done
That's right.
when you can. You know
Right.
what I mean?
So
And this is the same thing.
the schedule was wake up, drive up there, come back home, do my shipping, try to do anything else that I could do, drive back up, pick him up while he's eating lunch or taking a meal, maybe try to bust out a couple photographs. We go to the field, we go to baseball practice, and then after he gets done, homework's all finished, he goes to sleep. That's when I would do my listings. That was my routine for a long time. Maybe it was 10 a day back then, 20 a day back then, whatever it was, but it was never in a straight line because I had 6 hours of driving to do every single day,
Right.
Monday through Friday. So I had to work in time blocks around his
And you'd
schedule.
never be able to do that with like a nine to
Never,
five. There's
never,
just no way.
never. Not
You know what
only
I mean?
that, it's very important that every single day of his school career, I picked him up and dropped him off. That's very important for me. What is more important, and I know that this would have never been able to happen, is I have never missed a baseball game. I have never missed a practice. I have never missed an assembly. I
Imagine
have
that.
never missed a parent teacher conference. I have never missed, I don't feel good, come pick me up right now. Bang, I'm out the door. I have never missed a single one of those things, but I know damn well if I had a 9 to 5, I cannot sit here and say that today because no boss is going to say, hey, let me know what your kid's baseball schedule is this week. Well, great. He's playing at a very high level right now. So Monday practice, Tuesday's a game, Wednesday is practice, Thursday is a game. Basically, it's 7 days a week. What can you do to help me out? It's not going to happen. I would have been at work and I would have been missing the games. And that is very important to me. I would have been at work and had to ask and say, hey, my son has a parent teacher conference. Hey, my son is not feeling good. I got to go over there and pick him up. Hey, all these little things. I would have to beg and plead and negotiate to get time off. Oh, you're out of PTO. Oh, you're out of this. You're out of this. You can't do it. You can't do it. Someone called out. Dude, I cannot imagine a life where I was not there. And a while ago, somebody asked me and they said, hey, you were always there for your son. What is his opinion of that? And I asked him one day and I said, hey, what is your opinion of that? And he says, you're the GOAT. And if there was ever a time where I was not in the stands waiting for him, watching him, waiting for him in the car in the same spot under the same tree, because I got there at the same time, you know how I roll. If there was ever a time I wasn't there, that would not be his answer.
Yeah.
But now he knows 20 years of doing that, anything in the world, he knows I got his back no matter what.
And that's a
So
beautiful thing.
So I could be hard on him. I can go hard, but he knows at the end of the day, I'm there
He
always
can
and forever.
count on you.
And
Yeah.
that's because of eBay and that's because of reselling.
And that's a beautiful thing because as somebody who grew up, who my father had his own business, which meant that I barely saw him
Sure.
because he was at his business working, 9 to 5 or more than that. He'd get home, he'd lay in his recliner and fall asleep. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Hmm.
or somebody who works in an office, you know what I mean? They go to
Sure.
work 8 to 6, whatever it is, they come home. There's not a lot of time to spend with your family
Right.
when you're maybe the breadwinner, or even if there's two, whatever it is, like it's very hard. So it's like, and I'm going to give you an analogy for this as somebody who doesn't have kids, okay? Because I heard this quote one time, and it was Jason Newsted from Metallica, one of the second bass guitarist in Metallica. Um, and it was during a time when they were like having issues in the band, and he ended up getting kicked out of the band because he wanted to. Everybody else was in their family mode and whatever, and he was like, what his quote was, "I, I, I for, what is it? Forgave. I didn't take that route in life, the family, because music is my life and my music is my children.
Hmm.
Like my creations are my children.
That's
So
right.
I have to be doing this constantly." And what you said, the analogy to that is I need to be there when inspiration strikes to make a song. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because for
Right.
some people, that's in the morning, you got the juice. For some people, that's at night, you got the juice. For some people, it comes out of nowhere, you got the juice. And you got to be ready. That's the call from the school saying, hey, I don't feel good at school. For me, it's here's inspiration. It's time to sit down and write a song, and that can happen at any time. And if I'm at my job bussing tables, that's out the window, man. that don't come back. Just like the time doesn't come back that you spend with your child. Like you got to be there to write the song when it's ready to be written. You know what I mean?
Has
And
there been a time where you've been taking pictures and you say, wait a second, this gotta wait, I gotta go do this?
I usually schedule my day now to where I know when my juices are flowing,
Okay.
and I I do time blocking. So I'm doing 45 minutes, 45 minutes, 45 minutes, and I spin a wheel that has all the stuff I'm doing that day on it, and I let it tell me what to do. So it'll say
No
photos.
way.
I do 45 minutes of photos. It'll say studio. I hit the studio for 45 minutes.
What?
Yeah. I don't even do my own life anymore. I hit the wheel.
You let the wheel of life determine what you're gonna do today.
I love it.
What if it lands on the same panel twice? You gets another spin?
Yeah, I mean, usually it'll have like if I got to do 2 blocks of photos, I'll have photos twice on there. So if it lands on photos twice, that's fine. Then I remove them from the wheel for that day. You know what I mean?
No
But
way. No way.
yeah. And so I live my life like that. And it's beautiful because it kills procrastination. Because, like, maybe I don't want to clean the kitchen today. And I would just put that off by staying busy with other stuff. But if
Right.
that wheel lands on clean the kitchen, you
You
just
gotta
say,
do it. You got
well,
no choice, right?
I guess I got to clean the kitchen. You
The
hit that.
universe said it's time. The wheel,
That's
the
it.
wheel of life said it's time to clean the kitchen.
Going with the flow.
Dude,
What job allows you to do that? You know what I mean? So I can get 2 to 3 studio sessions in a day, which sounds, maybe that's like between 2 and 2.5 hours, right?
okay.
That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do that every day,
Sure.
it's crazy
Sure.
how it adds up.
Sure.
Like that is so much studio time. Like you don't even realize how much it is because most people will just do like 1 8 hour session, burn out, and then not do another session for another week because they're totally burned out. But if you spread that into these little, every time you come back to it, you can't wait to get back to what you were working on.
Hmm.
That's the beauty of time blocking in itself. But the wheel makes it even more fun. And then on top of that, once I hit 5 o'clock, if I want to go back in the studio, I can.
Right.
I'm still feeling it. I can jump back in there and be like, I got to get back on this. This is
Right.
well. So it's a beautiful thing, man. It is so nice to be able to have the freedom to spin a wheel and let it tell me what to do because I know that I'll get all my work done and I'll get all my activities that I got to get done. And, do I make money from my music now? No. Do I care? No. Like, that's not my goal anymore. But again, I wish I had it when it was. You know
Right.
what I mean? I just go with the flow now. I make music because I love to make music. And I don't do it under the same name that I did when I was popular. You know what I mean? When I did drum and bass, which is what I was successful at, which is now popular again with young people, which is crazy because it was a very underground scene when I did it. I came up in early hip hop and drum and bass. I mean, I wouldn't say early hip hop, but like late 90s, early 2000s. It was still, hip hop was just crossing over. Drum and bass, nobody knew about that stuff
Mm-mm.
until like, EDM popped off in like the mid to late 2000s,
Hmm.
right? 2008-ish in, in the US. And now every kid wants to be a DJ and all the things we were doing back then. And listening to drum and bass is cool and whatever. But, you know, my moniker back then was Think Tank. And it was me and one of my best friends growing up. And, we took that journey together from, me busting tables, him working at a gas station, and getting together whenever we could. And, we had to put money into a studio. These days, so we're spending every extra penny we have buying studio gear. Because back then, you couldn't download a studio
Sure,
like you
yeah.
can today.
Right.
This was like you needed gear. So
Right.
we had to like put our money together, buy gear, you know what I mean? Maybe for our birthday, ask our parents to buy us $100 compressor, whatever it is, like just to get this together enough to be like whatever. But um,
But also in addition to that, let's say you needed the $100 compressor, you could go right to Goodwill and get that $100, and now you don't have to,
That's the
wait for
thing.
your birthday. So like a lot of people can do
Totally.
that as well. So
And
all right,
so
so
eventually that goes forward, right?
yeah,
Start making money. We put out some records, we start getting money in. That allows us to buy better gear. We invested in the studio. We keep going.
and if you're selling on eBay, you can also sell your old gear, get some money for that, and then put it into new gear as
I
well.
do
Like
that
the
to this day.
options are unlimited.
Yeah, I do that to this day. I always buy used gear because it retains its value.
Hmm.
And then every time I make a new project, I sell the gear that I have and buy new gear with them.
That's right.
So
So all right, let me ask you this, because you might be the only person so far that has been on the podcast that can answer this. So you and your friend, you guys were popping off on the scene. You gave the moniker, and then eventually, it is your biggest break the song that has 4 or 5 million views.
no,
All right,
because
so
I didn't even know what that was.
let's talk about that one. You
Right.
have a song in a video game that everyone has played. Every single person listening to this podcast has played this video
I
game.
didn't I didn't know how big the game was until
So
years later.
how does that happen at all? So what do? You guys make a record, you submit it somewhere, and it ends up on a video game by surprise?
I was playing a gig, a DJ gig in Atlanta, where I have and I you we were using like AOL Messenger, ICQ, stuff like that back
That's
then.
right. Yeah.
So we would trade songs with other producers and this. So you build this network of friends all over the world of other people doing the same thing. And the better you get, the more that network grows. So any city that I would be playing in, I would have friends. And maybe I'd meet them for the first time, but I've been talking to them for years. So
Right.
I have some friends in Atlanta and I play a gig there. And then me and two other guys um, are like, let's make a tune while we're here. While I'm here. Okay, cool. So we made a song together. Um, the other guys were Evil Intent and Mayhem were their monikers. Mayhem's still around. Both of them are still around, actually. But they both got very successful in the game. Um, we make that song. First thing you do, you send it around. It gets signed immediately by a fairly big label. One of the huge DJs back in the day was Diesel Boy. I think he is still around. He signs it to his label, right? His label somehow has connections with, because it's a big label that's kind of a sub label of a major. So now he has connections. What do major labels want to do? They want to monetize everything.
Sure.
So they want to get stuff into movies, into video games, all this kind of stuff. So I guess EA Games comes hollering to the main label and says, what do you got? I mean, if you look at the lineup of who's on the soundtrack for this game, it's it's platinum level artists, but they also wanted the underground sound.
Sure.
So so somehow they took one of our songs as that song that we made, ended up not just getting released on vinyl on this label, but ends up getting licensed to Need for Speed Most Wanted, which turned out to be you know, I don't know how many it sold, but it was in the multi millions.
That game is in every single thrift store in America.
It was
There's
huge.
no doubt.
And I had no idea, man.
So you
Like I
didn't have
got
any
paid well
idea.
for it. You know what I mean? And it was just one time licensing fee, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was over the moon. You know what I mean? This is
Sure.
2005, 2006. That's a nice payday. That's paying the rent for the month, whatever. I'm happy with it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, because I was doing well with gigs at the time. I'm getting good money to play gigs, whatever. And that's where the real money is. You put out the records, you gain traction as an artist, and then you start trading tunes with other artists. So you have the stuff before it comes out. And we would cut them to what was called dub plates back in the day, which is like a lacquer master. So there's one copy
Uh,
and you could just make your own. And it costs money, whatever. Um, so you would get booked based on your songs and the fact that you were going to come in and tear the place down with stuff that nobody had.
sure.
You know what I
Need
mean?
for Speed. Need for Speed is literally in every single thrift store in America. Right next to Need for Speed is a spider jacket. Every thrift store in America has one of each, no doubt.
So
That's
that
cool, man.
song,
So how did you find out it was even on the game? Was like the game out for years when you found out, or
oh, no,
what?
no, no, no. Like I knew immediately it got picked up, like when it
Okay.
did before the game came out and everything. Like we got paid for that, you
Okay.
know. I just was like, all right, it's a video game. Like video games weren't as big then as they are today, but that was when they were getting huge.
Sure. Like
This
you
was
said,
right
they were
around the
platinum
time.
artists on the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. This was like the first time that
The
that was
beginning
happening,
of that.
where like real music was crossing over video games.
Yeah.
Like Tony Hawk is probably the first example of that happening. Like if you played any of the Tony Hawk games, you know in your head every one of those songs. And
Everyone.
it's the
Yeah.
same thing with a game like Need for Speed. And not
Yeah.
only
You
that,
know every
you
single
had the
one.
radio on there that told you the name of the artist. So
Yeah.
for years, I'd have people coming up to me being like, man, that's my favorite drum and bass song. And I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever. Oh, that's the song that got me into drum and bass.
Sure.
It's my life.
Sure.
Oh, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? Whatever. And then one day I'm like, let me look this up just to see. And you're all of a sudden there's millions of views on the song,
Yeah.
not the game, just the song. And I'm like, wow. Like, because that was the tail end of my career. And I was like, I literally could have built a career off of this song. Like, that's the big break.
Mm.
So I didn't know it at the time, but I was also like heading in a different direction in my life at that point. But yeah. So, to me, the big break originally was like we were the second just on the tail of the other guys because America was behind the times with drum and bass. That's a British and like UK and European style. It came from there, you know. But we were the second American artist to get signed to a label over there, and then most of our releases after that were on British or European labels, which was a big deal back then for an American artist to get signed over there. So, that was our big break, was that original. And maybe we would sell, 2,500 copies of a
Yeah.
record was big.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But yeah, the Need for Speed was crazy, man. Like, I can't imagine how many people know that song. But it also proved to me that exposure is really how it works in music.
Absolutely.
Because
That's
I
how
don't
it
think
works in
that's the best
everything.
song I ever made by a long shot.
That's how it
But
works in everything. Exposure. Like the reason why I have all the product and it's unlimited is because I put myself out there. That's it. So a lot of people I have shook their hand. A lot of people I've done good business with. A lot of people maybe know me from social media, so I get deal flow that way. It's just exposure. That's the name of the game. And we were talking to Benji on the UK call. Young guy, really smart guy, really inquisitive. We got a podcast with him coming out as well. And he asked, after we get the mechanical portion down, the photos, the listing, we know what to do. We have our schedule, we know the processes. What do you work on every single day? And I said 99% of my focus in this now, since all of that stuff I have squared away, is in relationships and product acquisition. That's it. And all of that is just getting exposure. So when people
yeah,
say, hey, how do you get these deals? How do you get these deals? I say, people have to know you. You have to be known as the person in your area that can facilitate a lot of deals or that can facilitate a deal, not only facilitate a deal, that's not the important part, that you can facilitate a deal. And then next time you see me, I can facilitate another deal because facilitate means I can buy it, I
yeah,
can process it, I can get my money back and then do more business with you rather than I buy it, it's in a death pile, my cash flow is low, and I got to pass on this deal. So in my area, I made it known, I made it sure that I was the person that can facilitate a lot of close. And if you have a lot of close, I'm the one to call. I can process it, I can list it, I can make money, and I can come back and do business with you
yeah,
again. That's the kind of exposure that I wanted. And I think us as resellers, people need to know what we do. People need to know that we do good business. People need to know that we have a good reputation. People need to know that our money is good. And that kind of exposure to other people that have product, that's going to bring you to the promised land of reselling. So on
sure.
my videos where I started, the first videos I went 4 hours away to the flea market. Knew nobody. I did that on purpose. It wasn't an accident. I did it on purpose because Brett, you live here. I can go to our flea market. I'm El Presidente. I don't want to start my YouTube channel and be El Presidente. Oh, you have all of these.
Of course.
I get it. No problem. Let me
Yeah.
hit the road and go 4 hours away. I don't want to go 4 hours away, but let me do it just so I can
Of
show you
course.
guys I know nobody. I know nobody find the stuff. Okay, let me go 5 hours away. I know nobody find the stuff. Let me go to Georgia. I know nobody. I'll find the stuff. Let me go to San Francisco, California. I know nobody. Let me find the stuff. So every single place that I go, I plant the seed of exposure that I am that guy who will do good business with you. So right now, this weekend, since I've been traveling around, I need to go back to my circuit in Central Florida. I haven't been there in about 2 months, maybe three, because I've been traveling around, so I haven't been there. So what do? Hop on the phone, start sending text messages. Hey, que pasa? I'm coming through this weekend. Okay, I got stuff for you. Great. So I'm planting the seed. And when I go there, I'm going to meet everybody that I've exposed my business to. And I'm going to pick up more people, more connections every single time. So every single flea market, I have exposed my business of doing good work, have a good reputation, be a professional. And that's where all the deal flow comes from. And that is the most important part and the most important piece of my business now.
Yeah.
And it
And
all
then
comes from exposure.
well, and then on the flip side of that, it's like, all right, how do we get exposure for sales? Well, we can start our own website and try to get people to go to that, or we can go on the most popular selling website in the world
Yeah,
and
that's
get
better.
all the exposure to make those sales on top of that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And by doing that correctly, by using the tools in the group, by understanding how to make a proper title, take proper photos, use promoted listings, right? All this stuff to get the most exposure on your thing. Again, you're giving yourself the best chance for success. If you have a
That's it.
good product, just like in music, if you have a good song and it gets all the exposure, that's going to get your foot in the door. That's going to get you that
Mhm.
first sale. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's the same thing. And then you got to be able to back it up with more
You
songs,
got to do it
more
again, right?
items.
Yeah.
That's it.
You got to do it again. And it's just like baseball, just like music. What have you done for me lately? If you ain't had a hit in a good while, then it don't work. And that's like
Totally.
for us with selling. If the items start turning cold, we got to go to the hot hand. So if you're not putting out quality music, if you're not getting base hits, we got to go to the hot hand and we got to go to something else. We can't, rest and we can't, get emotional and fall in love with these things that used to produce for us. When it's time to get off the ship, we got to get off the ship and go to the better product. And you do the deep dive document for the group, which is a tremendous resource where people they submit a deep dive, they get access to the deep dive document. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deep dives in there, a hugely valuable resource. And if people are taking part in that, they know every single good brand that's on the horizon. They know every single good brand that's helpful, and they know the ones that are not good anymore because we go back through there, we redo some of them from time to time, and some of them fall out of favor that were once in favor. And it's our job to know, it's our job to get the ones that are in favor and ones that are on the horizon. And, in addition to that, this morning we did the show and tell call. We had over $33,000 of stuff that people found this week. Awesome stuff. But a lot of that stuff is on the horizon stuff. A lot of that stuff people are listing and selling within 1 week, selling on the same call like Jonathan today. Those are the items that we have to look out
Yep.
for. Jonathan listed a quote for 225, sold it in about 15 minutes. That's what we got to do.
Jonathan's great, man. I'll tell you, shout out Jonathan. But
He's
that
doing
thing was
good, man. He's
listed
he's
way too
finding
low.
nothing but great items. If he
I've
keeps
had
doing
that
that,
thing
he'll be
listed
all
at
right.
495. I'm sorry. But shout out Jonathan. He's a good, great guy.
That's right. So, the exposure to things like the deep dive document, the exposure to things like, you do the men's clothing call, exposure to things like being around people that are all working towards the same goal, all of that stuff matters immensely. And like, even though people say like I help the group so much, like the group helps me so much just by being around it every single day. Because I'll tell you what, after the morning call on Wednesdays that we just did about an hour and a half ago, and I see all of that stuff out there, I'm ready to run through a brick wall,
Oh,
man. I
totally.
am ready to rock
That's
and
a
roll for the day.
that's that inspiration hitting you right there. You know what I mean?
Bro, I am ready
You need to
to
be able to drop
get
it,
it.
just hit the store.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm fired up after that call. There ain't nothing stopping me for the rest of the day after that one. But
And
you
let
know,
me, let me
it's great. You know, life can be great with eBay, and I hope that you know these discussions, these podcasts, and all the videos and everything that you do, that we do. I hope that it helps people, you know, just make their life a little bit better. Because as you're talking about, as we're talking about, is that you know you can mold this business into exactly what you want it to be. And I'll be honest, like my business has had different iterations of what it looked like. I told you the first iteration of it when I was driving 6 hours. That was the iteration of it was a struggle. It was late nights. But I worked in time blocks, and my schedule was very, very flexible. We're talking about my son was in elementary school at this time,
right, right,
and I was driving 6 hours a day between school and baseball. And then, you know, as he gets older, as he's able to be a little bit more independent, because I never hovered around him. That was not my thing. As he was able to get more independent, I was able to gain some of my independence back, and then I was able to expand and grow little by little, day by day. Everything that I have all the way up until today, because I wasn't doing 150 items when he was in elementary school. I wasn't doing 250 items a day when he was in elementary. I wasn't doing it because
of course.
I couldn't do it and live his schedule on his life as well. But as he got older, as he got more independent, my as he matured, my business matured, and at certain times it was a hectic schedule. At certain times it was a more hectic schedule. At certain times it was maybe more of a 9 to 5 schedule. At certain times maybe it was a get done by lunchtime schedule as I'm leveraging employees and things like that. So you're able to make the schedule, but you don't have to stick to that schedule forever. So, like for you, when we talked a couple months ago, you had a schedule that you were trying to refine and get to the schedule that you have today. And
Yeah.
you've been able to do it. You're making more money. You're listing less items. You're finding more profitable items
Oh,
because of
yeah.
the knowledge and your work-life balance, which is something that is important to you and important to a lot of people, is much, much better. Even from a few months ago where we were talking, because that was some of the stuff that you were actually processing and working through.
Right.
And now, you know, everything is you know as close to as you want it right now. But that could change.
Everything's
Maybe
perfect.
Brett in 5 years says, you know what? I've been doing great. I'm listing X a day. I'm doubling and I'm going for it for a couple of years, and then I can go back to where I want. All that is fine. It's great.
You're in complete control of what you've called before the money faucet. Like
Yeah,
once this is set up, like in the back of my head, I know that if I want to make twice as much money, I
you can
just
do
turn
it.
on that faucet. I can
That's
do
right.
it. I have the
That's right.
time. I could do it as a one-man show. I
That's
have
right.
the time. I have the knowledge. I have this, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? Like, I know also that if I want to take a month off and just ship, I can do that too.
That's right.
And I
And
can work a
the
half
money will
hour a
still
day.
come. It doesn't stop.
Right. It might, things might trickle down a little bit, but at the same time, if you put yourself in a position where you're making more than you need, you
Hmm.
can do that. You could take a
Sure.
month off and say, I'm
Sure.
going to dedicate a month to writing my next album.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And then I'm going to go back and start hitting the thrifts and whatever. I've done that before and it works. It's crazy. So it's like, I feel like I want to talk to my 22-year-old self right now and just say, listen, join the group, listen to this guy
Start
Tech,
selling on eBay.
and start selling because the thrift store right around the corner from where you live right now. I used to live right across the street from the Salvation Army on Broward in
Hmm.
95,
Hmm.
back in the cut by Stranahan High School.
Yep.
That's where I lived at that time, right? I had a thrift store within walking distance of
And
me.
you didn't even know.
No,
That thrift store ain't bad over there either.
no, I still live close to it. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, but um, but yeah, so like I'm calling out to all those. I know that there's millions of people out there that are in that position right now, and I'm saying like, let us teach you. Let me show you how to do this because I want you to succeed at your art. And I also want to say that it's so much less stressful to know that the bills are paid
Right.
and then have the creative freedom to work on your art. Like, it's a beautiful thing. There's something to be said about the grind and the being a starving artist, but at the same time, it's unnecessary in this day and age. There's so much money out there to be made. There's the streets are paved with gold, literally.
They are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a
There's
little bit of
more
knowledge,
money.
a little bit
There's
of time. You don't even need to invest that much. It's a very small investment monetarily.
That's it.
You
A
can
couple
turn
bucks.
20 bucks into 60 bucks into 180 into, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
this is how it works. It's money compounds. So
Absolutely.
I'm calling everybody out that is in that position and is looking for a way to support themselves while they're chasing their dreams, and telling them that this is it, you know, at least this is one way. The
Yeah,
other way,
this is a great way. It checks all the boxes. Um, and I was talking with Renzi last week. I did a podcast with him, and he is very, very, very intentional on his schedule. He has two young kids. He has a wife. This guy, he's doing whatnot at 6 o'clock in the morning and crushing it. He's doing his whole day basically before the kids wake up, crushing it, and he goes to 6 stores. So he does a retail arbitrage model now. He
yeah.
streams 111 items per hour, and the
Wow.
guy's making like over $1,000 profit in an hour.
Yeah.
And he's done before the kids even wake up.
That's
And
great.
you think like, yeah, but Renzi, like no one is on whatnot at 6 o'clock in the morning. That guy got 250 people in the chat every single day.
That's crazy.
Every single day. Like you said, the money is out there. The streets are paved with gold. And this is the great thing about money. It's already printed. We don't
Yeah.
have to make it. We
Yeah.
just have to get a couple dollars of it. And right now, there are more dollar bills in circulation than any time in history. We just have to come get a couple. Just get a couple as they fly by. We don't have to print it. We don't have to make it. We just have to provide a service, provide a value, and the money will come. That's
It
it.
sounds crazy,
That's all we
but
got to do.
it's factually true. 100%. You've proven it. I've proven it. So many people in the group have proven it. This works. And it allows you to build a life, whatever that is, whatever that looks like to you. You get to sit down and say, what do I want my life to look like, and work from there toward it.
Mhm.
That's the beauty.
So how do you do that exactly? You've done it a couple of times. Do you sit down with a pencil? Do you have a spreadsheet on the computer? How do you figure out what you want your life to look like with doing this as a means to make money?
Well, I think at the beginning, there's going to be some prioritization towards the actual processes and getting all that done. It is
Sure.
going to take an investment of time to build this business. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. This isn't an
Absolutely.
overnight thing. And I hope nobody thinks that's what we're talking about.
We've never talked about that. This is work. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
But within a year, my goal was for this to be my full-time income, and to have learned enough to where I can go into any store and pull out money. You know what I mean? And then list it on eBay and be done. And within a year, I did that. And so my whole thing was like, my life is going to look like this. I'm going to spend what would normally be my free time as my work time, and what would normally be my work time as my free time to work on whatever else I want. My whole life I've been involved in a lot of things: music, art, throwing events, all this kind of stuff. I flipped the tables on it. I said, after having my own screen printing business that took 10 hours a day from my life every day, I flipped the tables. And now I got that 10 hours as my do what I want to do time. So, the steps are all there. You've created the path. You've created the map. It's just a matter of putting some time into it, getting to know some certain things, figuring out what niche you want to be in, and then mastering that niche. Most people know enough about something that they could start in a niche. That could be golf
Sure,
clubs. That could be
sure,
tennis rackets. It doesn't have to be clothing like I do. You know
sure.
what I mean? It could be anything. Like if you know a little bit about something, you can start to master this one thing and find your niche. That could be books. It could be vinyl records, whatever it is. The
I
sky.
agree, man. I agree. And so, all right, so let's say you got a little bit of knowledge, and you want to acquire more knowledge. And as the guy who is at the point of the deep dive document, what is like an easy thing that someone can do on a daily basis? Because we've been talking about the compounding and with your music, with the business. What is something that somebody can do every day, 10 minutes, and totally change the trajectory of their business?
Literally just doing research online, literally just doing research on eBay. If you spend 10 minutes running comps and looking online at what's selling for what and starting to, build a Rolodex of this stuff. So when you come across it in the store, you're not the one passing it by like the 10 people before you did. That's it. And if you do that, like I said, it's the same thing as music. If I do music for 45 minutes a day, that adds up to an insane amount of time over the course of a month. That is way more time than I've ever been able to spend making music. So it's just like we talk about consistency, it's the same thing. If you put 15 minutes into research every day, you will be a master within a
Absolutely.
month
Absolutely will.
at your
You will
niche.
know more than 99% of people just by 10 or 15 minutes a day in a niche, a pattern, a brand, a style, a keyword. All of that is the difference maker. So, like for an example, you have and I could tell just from barely even seeing it, you have a Polo Sportsman sitting behind you. And from the front, very unassuming. From the front, it has nothing on it. Hundreds of people passed by this shirt. I could tell you this right now. Goodwill passed by this shirt because they didn't think it was special. But on
Indeed.
the back, it says Polo Sportsman. And some Polo Sportsman shirts can go for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This one is the one from Costa Rica. It has an artist name on the bottom and it's got Costa Rica over there. How do I know this? Because I've done exactly what Brett has said and I've studied the comps. So
And how do I
taking
know
10
this?
minutes.
Because I watched the video of you going over all this stuff.
Oh, there you go. We also have the Polo deep dive in the group. But just by doing a 10-minute search of Polo Sportsman, that can make you hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars in your reselling career. And that search takes you all of 3 minutes to figure out what a Polo Sportsman is. Now, they have ones that are very, very expensive. They have some remakes of some ones that still sell for a premium. And then they have some ones that are much more rare that, the price is what somebody is willing to pay. So these are all things that and I use this as a game. Whenever somebody shows like a crumpled piece of something in the background on their camera, I always like to say, oh, this is what it is, how much it's going to sell for, because this is what we have to know. If we're at the bins and we just see a corner of an item, we have to have enough knowledge due to the research that we've done to know this is what it is, this is how much it can sell for, this is how much I can buy it for. And we have to do these calculations instantaneously as if they're second nature because that's how fast things move at the bins, at the flea market, at the thrift store. So when you happen to cross that,
Well,
it's
that's
$10.
the thing.
$10,
$10.
Brett. $10. Maybe we pass. Too expensive. But if we've done the research, $10 is a
Think
steal,
about
a
what
whale
that
of a deal.
$10 is going to turn into. Everybody go on eBay and do the research. How much is my $10 investment going to turn
Right.
into? You know what I mean?
Right.
And
But Brett, Goodwill's raising their prices. It's too expensive. $10.
all
If
day,
you know what to look for, it don't matter. $10 is still a bargain.
that's a crazy bargain on that shirt.
So that's
That's finding gold.
right, but that's the point that we have to get to. So like when people they say, you know what, my thrifts are raising the price, there's two answers to it. Go where the price ain't raised is answer number one. And then you have to be one step ahead of them. You have to know more than them. And every single day, Goodwill is doing research. How much research you doing? You're gonna let Goodwill get a leg up on you and they're gonna do research, but you ain't doing research? That part doesn't calculate for me. So, either put yourself in a different position where the price isn't that high as high, the bins, the flea market, a different Goodwill, drive further, go to a different area, go to a different state. You got to do what you got to do, or be one step ahead of them and know more than them, catch them slipping, or even better, do both.
And you know what? They're always slipping.
Always slipping, man.
And it's the difference between knowing and not knowing. That's it.
That's
And not
right.
only that, but nobody, it's like you said, nobody has an excuse anymore. We got phones in our pocket. You can
That's right.
literally look up every single item in the store if you want.
That's
Like it's
right.
going to take you a lot longer, but it's you can literally do it.
Dude,
It's
you could
crazy.
literally
You can
start
literally
this
take a
business
picture of this and
and
Google
use Google Lens.
will tell
Dude,
you what it is. It's
bro,
crazy.
bro, you could literally start this business today and never lose money on any item that you buy. If you look
No
up
excuse.
every single item, if you use Google Lens, you can literally never lose money on any item that you purchase
Yeah.
from day one.
That's the beauty of it. That's the difference between today and back in the day with the hustle. Back in before the iPhone came out, you had to know what was what, or you had to know what you were looking for. These
Mhm.
days, it ain't like that. You take a picture and Google tells you exactly what it is, how much it's worth, all this
Yep.
stuff. And I feel like we're giving away the keys to the castle right now. But you know what? I'm always going to be good because I got that knowledge. And I'm
Well,
always staying one step ahead. You're always going to be good because you got that knowledge. And you're always a step ahead. And that's all that matters.
so I'm going to make a declaration. I am anti Google Lens. This is a controversial statement.
I, I kind of am too.
I
It's the
never use Google Lens.
only.
Never. I
Yeah,
know it'll give me the answer, but as I told our good friend Arwin asked me a question and I said, "You tell me." He goes, "Let me ask Chat GPT." I said, "Why don't you ask BRAIN GPT? Let's use our brain."
yeah,
And I want to be able to use my brain and not rely on Google Lens. Google Lens is amazing. I've tried it out on ridiculous stuff and it has found it.
yeah.
But I want to rely on BRAIN
I agree.
GPT.
And you know what? Someday that phone somehow ain't gonna be working for you.
That's
And
right.
when
Yeah.
that day comes,
I've
we're
been to
still
flea
gonna be
markets with
kicking.
no service. And if you rely on Google Lens, you are out of business. And I'm scooping still.
That's it. And you know what? The other thing is, while you're taking your picture with Google Lens, I'm grabbing the 5 items
That's
that
right.
are next in the row.
That's right. The human brain is still undefeated for now. Until they implant the chip, then we're still
I'm
winners.
staying
But
away from that, man.
staying away from Neuralink,
As far as I can.
dude, what if Neuralink
I wouldn't
downloaded the
trust.
entire Terapeak database into your brain and you walked into the thrift store as the thrift store Terminator?
Well, they would have it too, so it'd be over.
No, what if Elon said, you know what? Hey, I saw this podcast. Brett, I want you to be the first one where I'm downloading the Terapeak Neuralink.
I wouldn't trust Elon as far as I can throw this highlighter. But I get what you're saying. If somebody that I
I'd
really
probably do
trust,
it. I'd do it for the good of all resellers worldwide.
we could think about it more like the Matrix, where it's like you plug in, you download everything. Now you know how to do jujitsu. You know all the brands and all that
No,
stuff.
just reselling only. You
I
download
think
it.
you already have that.
No, no, I could get better. I could get better. What if they downloaded every single listing in the history of eBay and you could recall it this fast? Billions of listings. Would you take one for the team? Still
It's
no.
already here. We already have it.
We don't have every single listing in the history of eBay on there.
We got 3 years.
Yeah, I take one for the team. So everyone out there, just know I would take one for the team. Brett will not advance reselling for the masses. I'll take one for the team. So Elon, if you're listening to this,
Yeah.
you can download the entire history of eBay. I'll go for it. I'll do it. I'll take it for the team, guys.
I don't know about all that, but all right.
Brett, good talking to you.
Hey, I got an Easter egg for the end.
What is it?
I was gonna wait for the end for everybody who listened the whole time. There's the song that we were talking about. We mentioned it. It's in Need for Speed. It's called Broken Sword, right?
Hmm.
The reason we titled it that, nobody knows this. I have seen speculation on why the name of the song is Broken Sword. I'm going to give the story real quick.
Okay.
So, my side hustle at that time, the statute of limitations has passed, so I can say it. I was bootlegging DVDs, right? That was
Okay.
that was my side hustle at this time in my life while I was working on music. Okay, so I
Okay.
brought a bunch of DVDs up, and we had the oh man, I can't remember the movie now. There's a kung fu movie called man, what was it? Oh, I'm dying now. One of the characters in the movie is called Broken Sword. And in the background, it was playing the strings. And we're working on the song. We're like, all right, what's next? And I'm like, man, this melody from the DVD, like the menu page. I was like, that's it. So we ripped that melody, put it in the song, called the song Broken Sword, pulled a bunch of like the Wu-Tang style, put those in the song. I can't remember the name of the movie. It probably came out 2005-ish. Amazing film. But there you go. There's the story of Broken Sword
It's
for
at
everybody out there.
5 million views right now.
Anybody who wants to know, we sampled that movie.
And if
God,
you want to get some listings up quick, you listen to this song and you'll be rocking and rolling on the keyboard.
yes.
I'll tell you that.
It's
You'll
really
be
good for playing
speeding.
racing video games too.
All right, Brett, I appreciate a good chat as always. And I agree with you, man. I think that this kind of occupation, this kind of side hustle, call it what you want. I think that it could fit in with a lot of people and many walks of life. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things about it. So I appreciate you for jumping on with us.
Of course,
We'll
anytime.
cross paths soon because we live close by each other. As
Sure, you
always,
know it.
be great. Thank you.